My name is Antineka McGhee, and I'm from Newport, Rhode Island. Well, I'm the oldest of four, and I'm the only girl. And I grew up in San Diego, California. All my family traveled from Newport, Rhode Island to San Diego, California. And then when I was 18, I moved here to Georgia. So I spent from 6 years old to 18 years old in San Diego. And that was rough. It was very tough. My mom was a drug addict, so I'm an 80s baby, 79. And so that era was a crack era, so it was very tough. She wasn't in the house and neither was I. So that type of exposure led me down the wrong path. I was kind of doing what I needed to do to survive. Me and my friends, we didn't really have any discipline, so we did everything from stealing, hanging out in Mexico, just really involved in the street life. I entered a gang when I was young, called myself, I was a Crip when I was 14. And, as I started getting into my girly stage, I kind of let that go. And, I sped growth, and started talking to older men. And, just from my exposure, it led, my what I was exposed to kind of, gave the impression that I was older than really what I was. And so I was able to, sneak into clubs using my cousins and them to ID, not Shayna's, but my other cousins, and sneak on military bases. And that's how I met my husband. And I've been with him since I was 17. I lied about my age. And I moved here with him when he got out of the military in 1999. I was working at full-time at UPS. I was a supervisor there. And I lost my job when I was pregnant with my son because I had morning sickness. But the sickness really kind of lasted the whole duration of the pregnancy. So it was a high-risk pregnancy. So losing my job led me to other options and sources of income. And so I went back to what I knew, which was trapping. Well, the police call it, trafficking and possession of narcotics with the intent to distribute. There was no intent there. We definitely distribute. They did a drug bust on our two houses. We had two houses, and they seized over $1.73 million worth of cars, money, and assets of ours, which landed us on the news because it was a major 2-county bust and ultimately sent me and my husband to prison. It was more survival, and then survival turned into ungratefulness. I became a little mean, because I could buy what I want, so my personality shifted, so it definitely shifted and changed my personality. I became hard, as far as my posture of my heart goes. And then, knowing that I was in and out of church when I was younger because I was exposed to going to church, and I was baptized when I was 8. I could buy what I wanted, but I couldn't buy the peace. So I couldn't rest peacefully. And, it was taking my kids through a lot. And I didn't want my kids to, even though I was buying them what they want, I wasn't giving them what they needed as a parent, And so it ultimately just didn't sit well with my spirit. And eventually, before we got in trouble, I started praying that he would change our life. I wasn't in a great mental space. I could always go out. I lived a fast life. I was going out all the time. We got shot at. Our house got robbed. They put shotguns to our kids' heads. And even after we went to jail, I wore an ankle monitor for a year. And they started coming to the kids' school, trying to kidnap the kids. So the life really brought, the life. Whatever, when there's that much money, it brings that much trouble. And so because of the life that we lived, you know what I'm saying, it wasn't no rest. It wasn't no peace. We was constantly looking over our shoulders. So even after we got in trouble, Georgia takes so long to take you to court. We was, still having, out there on the streets, and that type of exposure I really want to say, a lot of people glamorize that lifestyle, And so when I was receiving all that, I call it glory in my shame. And a lot of people was, you made it, but they didn't really understand the toll that it was having on me mentally. So I didn't want them to glamorize that life because they didn't understand the consequences, the burden, you know what I mean? So that's what ultimately led me up to change, because I wanted them to see something different. I didn't want them to glamorize my shame. I wanted them to, I wanted a triumphant story. So I started working on myself. And ultimately, Shayna continued to pray for me. She continued to push me. It was like, Antineka, extending the invitation to come to church. And I ain't going to say I did good when I got out of jail, because I did go back to it for a little while, but then I had a thought like, what if I get in trouble and I'm the only one there now? So with that burden on my shoulders, I stopped on my own, and I kind of money definitely faded. And so being down, I kind of got depressed for a little bit, and was going out partying, but then I was I was waking up, my conscience started to eat me alive. Like, is this what you want? Like, is this it? And I was looking around the room. I had all the materialistic things that I could want, but it was an emptiness in my bank account. It was an emptiness in my spirit, and I didn't know where to go from there. So I ultimately started coming to church, and I continued to come. And I wanted to change, and so I did change, because I wanted people to see that there's something else to do. Especially when you come home from prison, there is other avenues and aspects that you can incorporate in your life to change your life. If you can hustle and make that amount of money, then you can hustle to build your business. You can hustle to change your life. And so I wanted to change my life, and so here I am, rededicating my life to the Lord. Well, I asked Pastor Shelley, should I get rebaptized? Because I was baptized at 8 years old. And he was like, yeah, you done did a lot of dirt since then. And, I'm in agreement. I wanted a soul cleansing. I wanted to be purified. I wanted to wipe that life completely away. I wanted to set, a better example for those that were watching and are still watching, my life. And so I wanted to make that transition, to show somebody that, that you can come back from anything you decide to come back from. And so I wanted a comeback story. And so I wanted to start fresh. I wanted my soul to be cleansed. I wanted a new start. And there ain't no better place to start than in the water. And so I asked about it, and now when the first opportunity rolled around, I went ahead and I signed up for it. And here I am.